All right. Hey everyone. This is Jeff, your faceless DSUA111 Data Science for Everyone TA. And by now, hopefully, you've seen that the other TA, Will, posted a video of how to install Jupyter on your local computer if you have a Mac, right? So Jupyter being like just the sort of the program we've been using this whole session. When you log into DSUA-111.rcnyu.org, it loads Jupyter, right? And so we want to give you this last video in order so that you can download your homeworks or your Scratch work or just any work you've done for the class so that you can use it and refer to it or build on it, whatever you want, after the semester ends. And so, like I said, Will made a video on how to install Jupyter on Mac. So here I wanted to make a video of how to install it on Windows, since I personally just only use Windows. But so what you see here is like it's gonna look a little janky at first because I've just like made a completely fresh Windows installation as basically like a virtual computer. It's kind of a long story, but like there's this thing called AWS, and it lets you like make virtual computers basically that you can log into. So I'm just mentioning that because like this is a fully fresh Windows installation, so I don't have like anything installed because like on my local computer, right, I already have Jupyter installed. So to show you like the process from very beginning to very end, I wanted to start from scratch. But so the first thing that I want to note though is like I will show you how to download Jupyter and like run it on your computer, but I do want to say that there's basically a like simple way to write and run Jupyter notebooks if you like don't want to run anything on your local computer, you don't want to download anything, or your computer is like not fast enough, or your internet's not fast. If your internet isn't fast enough, that'll be an issue maybe. But if your computer isn't like fast enough to run Jupyter, like it's really slow, you can try this. So I wanted to show you this. It's called Colab. So it's colab.google.com, I think. Let me make sure. Hold on. Sorry. Google, let me just search it. Google Colab. Okay, so it's colab.research.google.com. So if you type colab.research.google.com, what it actually gives you is like, Google's own little version of a Jupyter notebook. And so like, it gives you this tutorial and it shows you like, oh, hey, we're running Python code and there's the output, right? And it's what you've seen it's like maybe actually a little, fancier than what you've seen. It shows you how to make plots and stuff. But so, if you click File up here, you can do a new notebook, right? And then, yeah, it'll make you sign in with a Google account and all that. But I'm not going to worry about that right now, but it'll just make a blank Jupyter notebook, and it'll save it in like your Google Drive account, right? So, well, specifically, it will go into your Google Drive account, and it'll make a folder called like Colab Notebooks. And so if you want to start a notebook from scratch, you can do that, but also note that when I clicked File, there was like an Upload Notebook button. And so actually you could download, any of the notebooks from the class and upload them here, right? And it will just kind of like convert the notebook format that you've seen on Jupyter into like this sort of Colab. Like it's slightly under the hood, it's actually the same format, like it's IPYNB files. It's just that Google like renders them here slightly differently, right? Like it has this like plus code plus text buttons, and the input output looks a little different with this like play button. So yeah, I just wanted you to see this because yeah, it's like if you just want like to super quickly test some Python code, or like you don't want to install a whole thing on your computer, but you want to like try out some code maybe that Prof. JR showed you, you can always use Colab if you have a Google account, right? And Although I should say, actually, like you could, so by being a student at NYU, you actually have like a G Suite account, which you can, Google about or you can search about, and that actually also gives you collab access. So you could just like log into your, like when it says you have to log into an account, right? And you go here, if you type like, mine is jpj251 at nyu.edu, which should, yeah, it'll take you to the NYU sign in, right? So actually you can use it even if you don't have a Gmail account or whatever, you can use your NYU account. So that's like, I think, really nice for like headache minimization if like, your computer's weird. Like I've had computers that are old and like they can't install anything, you always get errors, whatever. Colab is kind of like, a nice backup. But like the real full, featured thing that you would really want to do, honestly, is download Jupyter on your computer so that you can take notebooks from class and run them, right? So actually, real quick, let me log in because I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna like, yeah, let me go to the server. Mm, yeah. So, I mean, this is the same as the servers that you all log into. It's just like the instructor side with our autograder and stuff, but don't worry about the differences because all I'm going to do is I'm going to download a IPYNB, right, Jupyter notebook file, and then I'm going to show you how, like, I can either run it on Colab by using that upload notebook option, or I can install Jupyter on this local computer and run it like locally, like even if you don't have internet, right? Which is pretty nice. All right, let's see why this is triggering so long. Let me try that. Okay, cool. Cool. So yeah, this is like what you're used to. You sign in with your NYU account. Um, One sec. Let me just do this real quick. And authenticate that. Cool. And so far, everything is as you've seen, where you spawn the server and you wait a little bit. And I'm just going to find like a random notebook, and I am going to show you. So I'm just going to make a new notebook called like, you know, uh, Scratchpad. That's what I generally tend to call my notebooks if I don't know like what I'm going to put in it. If I'm just like trying stuff. Oh, whoops, let me try Scratchpad demo. Cool. So yeah, you're on your, NYU Jupyter server, which will go away after a while, but I don't know, you know, you do some fun Python stuff, whatever you want, and then cool, you say, all right, so I want to save and checkpoint, and then I will close and halt, right? And that's kind of like the best way to ensure that it saves correctly and it exits correctly. But now I can go down, right, and I can check the Scratchpad demo that I just made, and then I can go back up here and click download, right? So that's, just wanted to show you all, that's how you like get the IPython notebooks off of your computer. If you're interested and you have like a bunch of notebooks and you don't want to like check them and click download individually, I'm happy to show you how to download them all at once, but it's just like a little more advanced. It requires you to use like Linux terminal. So I'm gonna leave that out of this video, but definitely email me, or maybe I'll try to post it on Piazza. But yeah, for now I'm just downloading a single notebook, right? Scratchpad demo, and cool, we've got it on our local computer. So now, like I said, the easiest thing to do would be upload a notebook. Sure, we sign in. Signed in using NYU. So I click File, upload notebook, browse, and then hopefully it's in downloads. Yeah, I choose the IPYNB file, I upload it, and bam, there we go. There's my code, right? It's in Colab. So yeah, that is the easiest way. Right now I could say, hello from Colab, oops, and click run. Cool, now I've modified my file, right? And so I can now, like, let's say, all right, well now I'm good with Colab, but I want to, take it to the next level, and I want to run it locally, for example, if I don't have internet. So now you can download an IPYNB file again, right? So hopefully it'll download as like, yeah, parentheses 1 to show that it's like, it's the same file name, but this is the newer version. Cool, so now we have this IPYNB file that we originally started on the NYU Jupyter hub, and then we uploaded it to Colab and modified it, downloaded it again, right? This is all just to show you, you don't have to use Colab, you can jump directly to this part, where now I'm going to show you how to install Jupyter, right? So honestly, as with a lot of stuff, I'm just gonna search Jupyter install, and yeah, you'll get this Project Jupyter, like official page, jupyter.org/install, and what it tells you is nice if you already have Python, because if you already have Python, then actually, I used to recommend using Conda, but actually nowadays I just recommend pip because it comes with Python automatically. So for me, like, if you already have Python and you know what you're doing, like, to that extent, you can just run this command now. But I actually write, like I said, this is a completely, like, new version of Windows, so I'm not even sure it has Python. Let me check. So, for people who don't know what I just did, I just clicked the start menu and I typed CMD, that's it, and I clicked enter, and it opens this command prompt, which is basically like, it looks like the Matrix or something. It's the, it's kind of like underlying Windows, and it lets you just like type in commands and stuff that just lets you do things quicker than like using the Windows interface. And for like coders and stuff, like for coding packages and stuff like Jupyter, most of the time they'll expect that you are able to just use this command prompt to write commands rather than like giving you an installer. Like usually, like, you get a program and it's like you download it and then you double click it and it runs like an installer and it's like a graphical interface. But Jupyter is installed through through this terminal. Well, it's a command prompt in Windows, it's terminal in Mac, but I just wanted to show you that because we'll be using that in a second. Let me just see if it has Python. Yeah, so this computer doesn't even have Python because I just installed it. So, I'm going fully from scratch, and I'll just search like Python install. So Python, in general, like at this point, when Python 2 is kind of like done, right? See, it says like end of life, meaning that Python is asking people to like take any remaining Python 2 code and convert it to Python 3. But like there's like a bunch of different Python 3 versions here, you see here, right? So when in doubt, just download the main one that they give you, right? The latest one is 3.8.5, but if you're watching this and it's later and there's a later version, that's fine too. And this is what I was talking about before, where it should give you like an actual installer. Yeah, you click install now, definitely. You want to check that. I don't know why that's not checked by default. That's like important. But yeah, if you see that, definitely check it. That's important. And then give it a minute to install. Hopefully, like, well, not hopefully, but I'm guessing a lot of you might like already have Python installed, so just want to reiterate, you can like fast forward to after this when I'm actually installing Jupyter, but right now I'm installing like Python, right, which is you install Jupyter through Python, right? So it's Python first and then Jupyter. And then, yeah, just give it a second. If this takes too long, definitely. That's also important, to be honest. Clicking that. Um, yeah, the thing where you check add Python to path, like all caps PATH, is important. And then that thing I just clicked, I should have shown it for longer, but it's just saying like Windows, like by default, like restricts how long a file name can be, which can hurt when you're using Python because some of the like library files, like underneath the hood that Python is using, have pretty long file names. And so yeah, I just clicked the button that said disable that. So now Windows will allow like really long file names, which will make sure that there's no issues with Python. So cool, setup was successful. Now I should be able to click start, type CMD again. Well, yeah, let me close this one that I had open from before. So I'll close that, just show you one more time. You click start, you type CMD, and you click enter, right? And it brings up this terminal here. And now it should, great, all right, so now when I type Python, right, it actually knows what I'm saying. It's kind of bad. If you didn't check that like add Python to path thing, I don't know if this would happen. So just email me if like you type Python after installing Python and it doesn't show this like Python 3.8.5, right? This little message saying like, okay, great, I get what you mean when you say Python because you've now installed Python, and it actually gives you a little Python prompt where you can type like little Python code and it'll show you the output. But yeah, that's just to check. You can type quit as like a function, so quit with open parentheses, close parentheses, and it will leave that little Python. It's called like a Python shell, so just like a little interactive like Python session, and it'll go back to your regular Windows command prompt, because now finally we are at the actually installing Jupyter. So I'm going to do this pip install Jupyter lab, right? I'm just going to type that into my command prompt down here. So pip install Jupyter lab, I think, right? Yeah, Jupyter lab, all one word. And press enter, and hopefully it works. Wow, cool. We'll see. It has to download a bunch of the like other libraries that Jupyter depends on, so it might take a minute, like depending on your internet. This has like ultra fast internet only because it's like running on like in like Amazon headquarters basically, so it just has hyper fast internet. So if yours is running slower than that, don't worry about it. Just make sure like if you see error messages and it doesn't install Jupyter correctly, definitely like email me a screenshot of it or something. But yeah, don't worry if it takes longer. Right, each of these little bars here is like going online and downloading like a different Python library that it needs, and then now it's actually like installing a bunch of stuff. So this one also may take a very long time depending on like your computer. So yeah, don't worry about that either. Just wait for all of these, right? Because it's saying like, oh, it has to install like 30 different packages, right? Because this is the first time we've ever installed a package, so there's a lot of stuff that like Jupyter depends on to run, and so it has to install all of those. So this step might take a while. And then I'll either cut it out of the video if it ends up taking too long, or you can just fast forward it. But yeah, just give it a minute. Okay, cool. So, great. Now you have either, hopefully, yeah, you have gotten to this point. You might get this yellow warning message, which is actually okay. It's just saying that like you're using an old pip version. So I should have said pip, PIP. That just stands for like Python installation program, I think, something like that. Python installer something. And it's just like the command that you use to install new libraries into your Python installation, right? So I just did like pip install Jupyter lab, and that's now saying like, all right, on top of just the like standard most basic Python libraries, also add the libraries that we need to run Jupyter locally, right? And so it doesn't really like matter. We have a slightly old version of pip here. You could upgrade it using this like sloppy looking command, but I wouldn't worry about it right now. If you're worried about that, email me and I can show you how to update it, or you can copy this and paste it and it'll update it. But it's warnings are fine. It's if you get an error message that you should be worried, because that means it couldn't install Jupyter. But at this point, if nothing goes wrong, you should be able to now type, literally just type Jupyter, and then it's kind of hard to explain, but there's like two versions of Jupyter right now. There's like the original Jupyter, which is the interface that you have on your NYU cloud that you've been using this session. But actually, like, Jupyter is, there's like a newer version called like Jupyter Lab that I would recommend using, just because it just has like a ton more features than the original one. So it's going to look a little different, just, you know, warning you in advance. But hopefully after like a minute, you'll adjust to the new interface. It looks mostly the same. I'll talk about the differences. But so to run the new version, you just type Jupyter Lab instead of just Jupyter. I think like eventually they will replace it so that like it's just all Jupyter Lab. But for now, you have to type like Jupyter space lab. But you can just do it in the same command prompt. Or if you closed it for whatever reason, you click start and then type CMD, press enter, and then type Jupyter space lab. I'm going to open in Firefox. I should have mentioned, like, it is a fresh Windows installation, but right before the video I did install Firefox because Internet Explorer is kind of annoying. So that is one thing I did. Yeah, and you should get like an animation like that while it's loading. And if you look, like, it definitely looks different at first from the interface that you had on your, you know, Jupyter Hub at NYU. But really, like, everything, there's like you should be able to quickly see, like, okay, before it showed, you know, your folders and files at like the center of the screen, you know, like that was like the main thing it was showing you. But now here they have it like separated into, there's a panel on the left with the folders, and now there's a panel on the right, which is actually kind of an expanded version of what you would see if you clicked like new, you know, like when you make a new notebook or anything like that, you would click like new, the little new button in the upper right on the NYU server. Well, that's just like all here, right? Now you can make a new notebook just by clicking this, right? So you see there's like the notebook section, and it's saying the reason why there's a whole panel is because you could have all these all different types of notebooks. Like, it doesn't have to just be Python. It could be like Java and other programming languages if you want to get fancy. But by default, it just says like, okay, there's one button, and it says to make a Python 3 notebook. So we could do that, right? And it gives us this. It looks very similar, but again, slightly different, where over here you still have your files and folders. Those haven't gone away. But now in like the main panel here, you have your notebook, right? And you can do, yeah, you can run code by just like typing it in there. And then by the way, wow, I should have said I'm pressing Shift Enter to run it, but hopefully you know that by now. But yeah, you can say, so cool. So that was like a new notebook, but the last thing that I want to show you, right, because it's the main point of this video, is I downloaded an IPYNB file off of the NYU server, and then I like uploaded it to Colab and made some changes in it and re-downloaded an even newer version. So now I'm going to go to the downloads folder, like from within the Jupyter Lab interface, and we see it right here, right? So you could sort by like last modified, or yeah, and then see like, oh, this is like the most recent version, right? So you can double click on that and bam, it's our code from before. now we've loaded it into like a third different thing, right? From the NYU cluster to Colab, and now to a local Jupyter Hub installation on our local computer, right? And what's nice about that is the things I've said before, like you don't need internet to run it. You like, if you have a fast computer but slow internet, you can just like not ever worry about your internet connection. You can just download your notebooks and run them here, right? So I will say that if you're doing it like me and you've just like you have like a fresh Python installation, it almost surely will not come with the data science libraries we've been using. So let me just show you real quick what that looks like. Because so I just pressed the A key to add above, right? A is to add cells above, B is to add cells below. But so if I want to say like, what we've been doing all session in class, like import pandas as PD, import numpy as NP, right? And then I do shift enter to run it. It should say like, yeah, no module named pandas, because this is like a fresh Python installation. I haven't installed pandas or numpy. But if you see that, I just want to say like, don't worry, because you can go to your so you can go to your command prompt. Right now, like this command prompt has sort of turned into a Jupyter server, so you can't type in here right now because it's like this window is like the window in which a Jupyter server is running. So but you can just make another one, right? So click start CMD, right? There's no like limit. You can have 2 of these prompts open at the same time. So just open a second one, and it's the same thing as actually installing Jupyter in the first place. You do pip install pandas. First things first, right? And it will do what it did before. It will download any libraries. It'll download like the pandas library itself, and then any libraries that it needs. So pandas requires numpy, so hopefully, yeah, it looks like it's installing numpy and pandas at the same time. So that would be nice. But let's just check. So we do what we did before, and we wait until it's installed. So we give it a second to install. But I'm just showing you this because I want to show you like, yeah, it's pretty nice because when if the whole installation has gone correctly, like you should be able to just do this and then go back to your Jupyter notebook and like rerun the cell, and now to be like, oh okay, pandas, yeah, now I know what that is. You installed that numpy and pandas, right? So we should be able to run this and not get an error, right? We'll see. Oh, cool, yeah, great. So now we could do like data frame equals pd dot data frame x is 1 2 3, y is 4 5 6. This is just a test to make sure that it worked, and then do df.head, and cool, right? We've got pandas going, numpy. It's the same thing for, let me just like finish it off by showing you the remaining libraries that we've used. Let me think. So there's like scikit-learn. Yeah, well, I'll start with, okay, so there's stats models. It'll give you an error, but you go to your command prompt, the one that's not being used to run the Jupyter server in the first place, and just type pip install stats models, right? And it should work the same as before. Cool. And so then in a minute, that cell should run. And then I'm trying to think. I think what's left is matplotlib. So matplotlib and scikit-learn, I think, are the ones that are left. And then like anything beyond those, like you can search, how to install it. It gets tricky because sometimes like you just don't know what to type. Like it's gonna be pip install something, but there's weird packages where, like scikit-learn for example, you don't type out like scikitlearn. right? It's like a shortcut. It's like for that one you will have to do pip install sklearn, right? So it's just about like figuring out what the specific, what the like quote unquote official name of the package is, right? So stats models is done. We can import that now. Sklearn, we'll go do that. So pip install sklearn. And then, yeah, I think the last one is matplot. So I think that for this class, like almost everything, you just type pip install and then like just like the full name of the, like you type pip install pandas or pip install numpy. But yeah, scikit-learn is shortened to sklearn. Just like wanted to make sure that you get that. Because yeah, basically like long story short, if you end up doing like HTML parsing, there's this library you'll probably use called Beautiful Soup, and it's like awful because even though it's called Beautiful Soup, if you type pip install Beautiful Soup, it doesn't work. You have to type pip install BS4. So in case you end up using that library, just put an asterisk on that. That one's hard to figure out, like what specific pip install command you need to run. But cool. So now we should have sklearn, and last but not least, if that works, all that's left is matplotlib, unless I'm forgetting something. Matplotlib. Cool. We go here, we do pip install matplotlib, and watch this process for one final time. And then I just want to say before we end that another really nice thing about Colab is Colab also like installs all of these really popular data science packages for you. So you can just go into Colab without doing any, you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. Colab should just have like most of the libraries that you need installed. I haven't found the library that it doesn't have installed, but if you find one and you get that error like, oh, I don't know this module, pandas or something, whatever, you should be able to search like Colab, use, and then the name of the library, and someone, in some forum or something should have posted how to use it. So yeah, I think that's all the libraries that we have used in this class. So now you should be able to download all your IPYNB files from online, put them in some, folder on your computer, launch the Jupyter lab like this right here, and then find that folder right in this little navigation pane here, and then just open your IPYNB files in here and run them just like you've been running them online, but now, yeah, they don't go away ever until your computer goes away. So yeah, thanks for your patience while I did all that, but now hopefully we've like established the basics of how to go from like completely scratch Windows installation to having Python, Jupyter, and then all the data science libraries from class all installed and ready to go. So thanks.